I'm time-lapse photographer Drew Geraci, and I want to explain a little bit about what it is to create a basic time-lapse. Now, the first thing you're going to need is a sturdy tripod, a camera, and the most important thing is an intervalometer. Now, the intervalometer can be either internal or external. It doesn't matter. You just have to make sure that your camera has one. So the difference between an external and an internal intervalometer are pretty minute. So the external intervalometer just gives you the ability to change the duration, the time as you're shooting. So if something happens and you want to shoot something or change a setting, you have the ability to do it because the external intervalometer allows you to do that. With the internal intervalometer, it's kind of a set it and forget it kind of deal. So once it's been programmed in, you pretty much have to let it sit and do its thing. Otherwise, you have to recompose and reshoot, and it's kind of a nightmare. So I honestly recommend using an external intervalometer because it just makes things a lot easier, and if you need to change anything, you can do it on the fly. So let's talk about what settings you need to choose when it comes to your intervalometer. Now, for me personally, I like to do things between a 1 to 3 second interval. If I'm ever shooting people, cars, or even clouds, I want to be shooting at a fast interval because that's going to give me a buttery smooth, cinematic-like feel, and that's what we ultimately want to go for. Now, you have to understand the subject that you're shooting because that ultimately is going to dictate what your interval is. The easiest way to think about it, though, is that when objects are moving fast or objects that have a fast movement to them, you want to be shooting at a faster interval. Objects that are very slow moving or even non-existent movement, you want to be doing longer intervals. So longer intervals really constitute anything over 5 to 10 seconds. So that could even be 15, 20, 30 and above. Now, for those intervals, you're probably going to be shooting something like an event-based time-lapse. And that's just say, let's for instance, shooting a stadium filling up. You wouldn't want to choose a fast interval because that fast interval would just be too many frames and you wouldn't see any progression over time. With the long interval in that instance, you would see things move progressively faster. You would just be taking shots fewer and farther between when it comes to the shooting. So that's the easiest way to break it down when it comes to time-lapse. Now, for me personally, everything that I shoot, I like to overshoot with frames. So that way that I can either remove them in post if I have to, or I can keep them in. But the thing you can't do is you can't add frames back in. So if you don't overshoot, what happens is you are left with whatever you have already shot. So for me personally, I'll go ahead and make sure I always overshoot. I'll do fast intervals anywhere between 1 to 3 seconds, and usually when it comes to people and cars, I'm going to keep it at about a 1 second interval. So that means that the camera is going to be shooting every 1 second, or a frame every 1 second. And for me personally, I think that just creates something that's much more elegant and smooth. And if I have to remove those in post, or if I have to remove extra frames in post, I can easily do that. Now, that's pretty much the basics of it. Each interval is going to be different depending on the subject that you're shooting, so I really implore you to go out there and then time your subject, see how long it takes to go from the beginning to the end, or check out my guide. My guide has a complete list of what the best intervals are for shooting, so if you purchase the tutorial, you'll be able to see those intervals and really be able to align those with what your subjects are. And it's a great way to start time-lapse and create something new and innovative. Anyway, check us out. The tutorial is live on proedu.com, and you can always check it out on my website at district7.com. Thanks.